This is just a cell transport chart that I wanted to go over. I thought it would be a good review for all of you for our test and preparation for it. So this first one, simple diffusion, if you remember, we all learned that diffusion and osmosis are always going from high to low concentration. So if you put your arm up high, it goes from high to low concentration. And both diffusion, simple diffusion, and osmosis are passive, and that means that they do not require energy, right? They do not require ATP. Another thing is that both simple diffusion and osmosis do not require a protein. Both of those things can go across the cell membrane or the phospholipid bilayer. Remember, the phospholipid bilayer is that protective barrier that a cell has. It has a polar head and nonpolar tails, or remember, hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tails. And so each of those mechanisms will go across the cell membrane. So what I'm going to do now is just simply fill out this chart. You all have that chart as well, and so you can kind of follow along, okay? Again, this is just a nice little review so that we definitely know the expectations on the test. So again, simple diffusion, this is passive. Remember, it does not require energy. Same with osmosis. It is passive, okay? Simple diffusion and osmosis are always regarding direction from high concentration. Remember, those brackets mean concentration to low concentration. Okay, so high concentration to low concentration. Now with diffusion, this is high concentration to low concentration of solutes, right? These are solutes. And whereas osmosis is the same, high to low, but it's of water, okay? Is a protein needed? No, and no. What is actually transported across the cell membrane? This is actually solutes, okay? And then osmosis is water, okay? So we're done with those. Now there's another kind of diffusion, but it's called facilitated diffusion. And I did this in class where I modeled myself as like a glucose molecule trying to get through the doorway, if you remember. And I couldn't get through the doorway because I had all those flags on me and I was really big and wonky. And so then I was able to get through into the classroom through the garage door, which we modeled as the channel protein. This process is passive. It does not require ATP. It also is from high to low concentration, okay? Is a protein needed? Yes. And specifically, it's the channel protein that is needed. What are some of those things that are transported? Definitely glucose, but also amino acids. Okay, those are just two examples. Remember, amino acids are the monomer of proteins. So they are the building block of proteins. Okay, the last one we talked about numerous times. It's called the sodium potassium pump. So sodium is Na and potassium is K. These are both elements that are essential, especially with nervous system function and the homeostatic ability that we can actually get from like stuff like Gatorade, for example. They're full of electrolytes. So those electrolytes that we're talking about, some examples are sodium, potassium, but it actually is a pump that helps to regulate that homeostasis. Now, what's interesting about this is an active process. So that means that it requires cellular energy. Remember, cellular energy is in the form of ATP. Now, since it requires ATP, that means it costs energy. That means that these molecules are not going from high to low concentration. They're actually going the opposite way against the gradient, against the current. And that's what actually costs energy. So the movement or direction is from low concentration to high concentration. okay? And so this is going against what we call the concentration gradient. It goes against the gradient. It's going against the flow. Is a protein needed? Yes. Okay. And again, examples of molecules that are transported is sodium and potassium ions. Okay. Both of those have to be in a regulatory balance in order for you to be in homeostasis. Okay. So the actual protein that is used is the carrier protein. Remember, that's the one that requires ATP. It's the one, if you remember in class, where we went like this, then this, then this. So it's like a little machine. It requires ATP. And these molecules of sodium and potassium, again, are going against a gradient. So imagine that this is the gradient, right? This is the natural flow. Well, when sodium and potassium are pumping across the cell membrane, they actually have to work their way across that flow. Okay, so they're going upstream, like if you were to walk in a river going upstream. One of my students in fourth period referenced the concentration gradient as a waterfall. So imagine like all this water falling and then these molecules having to go against that waterfall. So that's why it costs energy. Okay, and that's it.